But I want to start with Von Miller. And in his press conference, he made an interesting comment. He says, I will do whatever the coaches tell me to do, whatever they think is in the team's best interest. But he essentially insinuated that he in no way, shape, or form wants to be part of a heavy defensive line rotation. Leslie Frazier this morning was asked about Von Miller's comments, and Frazier said it was discussed with Von before he signed. He's used to one way. We have this philosophy of rotating our guys. We will find a happy medium. What are your thoughts on Miller's use in a rotation and the comments from these two pressers?
We'll find a happy medium from Leslie Frazier is basically him saying I think Leslie Frazier conceding to Von Miller in a way, because like you're not paying this guy those huge bags of cash for him to be on the sideline. Now he's going to be on the field for your most important plays. There's no doubt about it. Like the money downs, third downs, he's going to be there. But like Von Miller playing 75% of the snaps is not an unreasonable thing for Von Miller to want to do. He's had at least like pretty much 75 to 80% snap share throughout his entire career. His last couple of years, obviously the year before the injury in Denver, or the year I should say after the injury in Denver, I think was his lowest snap share percentage, but he's been over 70% every year. And so Mark makes a good point. 70% Miller, that's going to get him on the field, obviously, for 3 out of 4, downs in each series. And I think that's fine. Get him around 75%. So Leslie Frazier conceding a little bit, saying we'll find a happy medium. I think pretty much saying he's not going to be on the field for 100% of snaps, but he might not be in the same sort of classic 60%, 50 to 60% rotation that we've seen from other guys that have come through those doors. So, and there you go. So never played less than 79, consistently 85. So I'd expect him to be around.
I think the happy medium will be like 70, 75%. And like in big games, it'll go up. Like in the playoffs, it'll go up. Yep. I do think early on in the season, but we do have a tough stretch, like the first 6 games. So maybe it's like high in the first 6 games, like 75, 80%, comes down a little bit in the middle of the season and then revs back up once we start getting towards the postseason, the playoffs. But I don't know if the Bills are going to concede to Von Miller to an extent where they're going to give him 85, 90% of the snaps. But I do think they'll concede into where he'll get, and Ryan Sullivan did a great piece. They've done this before with guys like Trent Cole and Greg Hardy and Charles Johnson. He could, I think he could push 75%, 80% of the snaps without a doubt. Some other interesting comments. Greg Tomsett was just one of the things we got to talk about with Von Miller is just he's doing things out there that Greg had never seen before. And that he wasn't the only one who commented that. There were multiple beat reporters and, people who know their stuff on the football field, or even just casual fans at training camp were like, this just looks different than what we're used to when we show up to training camp on the defensive line. Like this guy is bending in ways and getting into the quarterback in ways that we have just never seen before. It's just different. It's noticeably different. So it's, we paid him all this money and we expect it, but it's still good to see that he's as advertised once we get to training camp. I thought the comments today from Leslie Frazier on Jordan Phillips were really interesting. I don't know if you've had a chance to see Leslie Frazier's press conference. I'm going to put some clips up later tonight on our Instagram, our TikTok. I'll throw them up on Twitter as well. Some clips that I thought were most interesting from the press conference. But here's what he had to say on Jordan Phillips. He said that the goal with Jordan Phillips is trying to recapture that 9.5 sack season he had in 2019, trying to get him back to that place. He said he had a great spring. He had a great offseason away from the team. Eric Ciano, the team's strength and conditioning coach, says his conditioning tests were, finger quotes, off the charts. You got the generic. He was the first one in the gym this morning from Leslie Frazier. And he says that they expect someone similar to what they had 3 years ago. Being out here in the desert in Arizona, I can confirm that his habits, his mindset, his motivation, they were all questioned by the fans and the media out here after he got that big contract and laid an egg in the 34 defense here in Arizona. He also had some not so complimentary things to say about the Arizona Cardinals and Vance Joseph in his welcome back presser. So it almost seemed like he was in talks to sign with the Buffalo Bills before his deal in Arizona was even torn up. I think Arizona gave him permission to do that. Do you think Phillips can recapture that 2019 form? And if so, like, sky's the limit. He might be the one guy that we're not talking enough about.
I think he can. I think he can flash some of that
Mhm.
2019 form, right? I think he's still got some of that in there, but I think I don't think it's fair to expect that he's gonna get back to 9.5 sacks if you want to put a number on it. I think he's in the
Mhm.
right situation for him. I think he pretty much did what he had to do throughout his career, right? He got his money when the iron was hot. He struck while the iron was hot. The grass isn't always greener from a
Mhm.
fit perspective, from a coaching perspective, from that, but you got your money. You kind of now are at the point where you want to maybe rehabilitate your image and justify a little bit in your own mind why you got that money in the first place. So
Mhm.
I think he's in the best situation he can be in. A rotation for him is a good thing. Playing with guys like Settle and Daquan and Oliver, I mean, he's in a really nice situation there where he can kind of make the most impact. I think there's not a huge amount of expectations on his shoulders like there would have been after he signed that contract with the Cardinals. So I think that's a nice spot for him to be in, Jordan Phillips as a player.
Mhm.
Um, Working hard, not a ton of expectations on his shoulders. So what he does deliver is going to be a bonus, I think, in my mind. So I think a really good situation for him. And I think that the Bills were savvy in
Mhm.
re-signing him, I think, and kind of adding him
Yeah.
back to that rotation because in reality, they got the most out of him more than any other team. So
Mhm.
I like it for him.
Yeah, it's gonna be really exciting once the pads go on. Chris Jenke says Bills arguably have the best and deepest offensive and defensive line in the McBean era. Mark Robbins comes in talking about how there's going to be some mop up sacks. I mean, that's just that 4-man. Like, you got Von Miller rushing from the outside. You have a really good secondary that maybe can stymie some receivers. So the quarterback has to hang on to the football. Guys like Ed Oliver are going to eat. Jordan Phillips are going to eat. Tim Settle's going to eat. So I really am expecting an uptick of sacks from this offense or this defensive line this season. Some other guys that were mentioned in the comment section over the course of the last couple of minutes here. Looking at my notes, Eli Anku, calf strain. He's out indefinitely. He strained it during conditioning the first day of training camp before they were out there practicing. Tim Settle had a day 1 pick 6 off of Case Keenum, or at least a could have been pick 6. Some people said that he started to struggle a little bit once he got past the 50-yard line. Didn't look like he wanted to keep running. Don't blame the big man. Ed Oliver, I saw a note of him just absolutely schooling David Quessenberry for a sack when
Well, you would
David
hope that was the
Quessenberry was
case.
in at left guard. Basham wearing 55, looking lighter, leaner, bendier. I've seen that in the comment section a couple of times. And then last but not least, Brandon Beane had some comments about AJ Epenesa in his press conference. He said he was in the best physical and mental state of his career. And I thought that was kind of telling.
Mm,
He talked about his weight drop from 240, what a struggle it has been for the players in that draft class because they're a year behind in reps from those OTAs. He talked about him hitting that wall after the Miami game. He made it sound like maybe there was a confidence issue going on with AJ Epinesa. So I'm hoping a veteran guy like Von Miller might be able to sort of, help AJ get his groove back. Not that he's ever had a groove in the National Football League, but maybe
well, I
get some of
mean
that college swagger back. So
I mean,
that's what I'm hoping.
you saw him embedded with AJ Epinesa.
Mhm.
He was like, "Von Miller's teaching me things that I hadn't even thought about myself." And, like, part of me is like, "Really, AJ? Like, you like, some of these things you haven't thought of?" But then part of me is like, "Alright, like, at least he's, like,
Yo,
he's acknowledging it, right?" Like,
him,
it's I don't know. I don't know, man.
him. This reference is going to date me a little bit. Um, Him wearing those shades to Von Miller's pass rushing summit, he looked like Will Smith in like Wild Wild West with those shades
Yeah.
on.
Yes.
I was
It
like,
looked
I don't know about the
very weird.
shades, dude. I don't know about the shades. I wasn't
They were
feeling the
like
shades.
they were like baby aviators.
Yeah,
Baby
I
apers.
was not I was not feeling it. And then Leslie Frazier was talking some good things about Tim Settle. I love the energy that Tim Settle brings. Very Jordan Phillips-esque, right? Like,
Yep.
you saw the first day of training camp. Josh Allen came out to this huge applause. Stephon Diggs came out to this huge applause. Von Miller came out to this huge applause. And Tim Settle started to walk out, and everyone was just kind of like going about their business. And he was like, "No, I'm not having any of this." And he was pumping up, and he was riling up the fans as he ran out onto the field. So that was good to see.